Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. Giving due respect to Nasi Zipor Wagam Et Beno Nasi Natan El Wagam Et Saranu Saranatan El Memate Lewi. This is a presentation being brought to you from Shema Yisrael, a Hebrew congregation based out of Brooklyn, New York. This is not a very long presentation because I am encouraging people to meticulously, diligently, earnestly, and in good spirit to study the first 11 lessons. Also, this is not a long lesson due to the fact that at this point, if people studied already and got into it, this is indirectly a review of some of the stuff we went over. And we want to go over, brothers and sisters, some clarity concerning certain subjects. So we call this one here Hebrew Class 13, The Language Matters. The definition of language, the words, their pronunciation, and methods of combining them used and understood by a community. Now, we already know and understand that Israel, though we are scattered, yes, we are in a community aspect. So we want that to be pointed out for reason and purposes. A systematic means of communicating ideas or feelings, and the use of conventional signs, sounds, gestures, or marks having understood meaning. Sorry about that. The TY is supposed to say and. All right. So this is just something we want to point out for reasoning purposes. All right. It's a systematic means of communicating. So, yes, Hebrew does have a system that we already spoke of. There are prefixes, there are suffixes, there are nouns, there are rules, there are verbs, there are patterns. In the verb system, you have 7 different aspects. You got 3 active, 3 passive, and 1 reflexive. You have the qual, the nif'al, the pl, the po'al, the hif'il, hof'al, the hipa'el. All right. So this is something we just want to point out in regards to that particular aspect. All right. A systematic means of communicating ideas or feelings and the use of conventional signs. All right. So when we say, pardon me, as stated, the TY is supposed to say and the use of conventional signs. So the definition, for instance, of hieroglyphs is a Greek word meaning sacred writing. All right. So anything could be a hieroglyphic thing. It's not only limited to ancient Egyptian. All right. Conventional sounds. Now, sounds, as we know, is given forth, brothers and sisters, by aspects of written vowels. A vowel gives forth a sound. So this is something we want to talk about in regards for edification purposes. All right. Conventionalized gestures. For instance, you can have what you call sign language. All right. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. All right. Saying shalom. Shout out to the people who are inside of this particular presentation in a live chat. All right. So, as stated, this is the presentation being brought to you from Shema Yisrael, congregation based out of Brooklyn, New York. All right. We want to keep these classes going. I do apologize for the half an hour delay. But I had to take care of some particular matters. But we still want to get these classes consistent because in the scriptures it tells us the hand of the diligent makes rich in Proverbs chapter 10. So it's not only in regards to, let's say, riches economically, but riches in other aspects. I know a person, not to get sidetracked from the presentation, and this particular person is a whiz, if you will, or a genius in regards to science. Passed all of the regencies in regards to that with high school and took extra classes in college. And I'm like, science, that's just not my thing. You know, personally, linguistics or history, is my particular thing. And to the point where this guy wrote a book in regards to biology that's used in some, not all colleges accepted it, but some colleges actually use a guy's book that I happen to know because he put his mind and his attention to it. So is it the same when you look at some of the Israelites or the drummers? For instance, when you hear us here in Shema Israel, and you hear the drums going on, these brothers and sisters, or brothers in this case, who play the drums in that regard, they didn't just start yesterday. They took time into it. And for those who may know, some of them are younger than 15 years old. So the point I'm saying in all of that is when you put your mind into something, it will show itself. The thing is, as a people, we supposed to put our mind toward the right thing. Because if you put your mind toward the wrong thing, that too will materialize. All right. So this is something we just want to point out for reason and purposes. All right. Conventionalized marks. In other words, you have it to where marks are written aspects of how something can be pronounced or stated, or an accent, or so forth and so on. So all of that, brothers and sisters and elders included, is part of the definition of what language is. Let's go on. All right, the Hebrew family tree. And as you see, it's called Afro-Asiatic. And then when you go down there and then go to the left side of it, then down from the Egyptian, going over there to the Near East, they have what they call Semitic. Now, in this particular regard, they're basically saying what languages came first, what languages are older than those other ones, and most of them are known, brothers and sisters, not so much by it being spoken, but by it being written. So if something was written before another, that's how they classify it on that particular tree. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. The way they tell a tree's age, like a tree in a forest, is they look at the lines on it and they say, due to this tree must be older. But if there's a tree that happens to be next to it that didn't get a particular line, doesn't mean that tree is younger. So this is just something we want to point out in that particular regard. So now when you look at the left side of this, when it says Near East Semitic, you have it where it says Akkadian, and then going down from there as Hebrew and Aramaic. Hebrew and Aramaic are cousins. And these are things we're going to point out for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. So Hebrew is part of the family tree that belongs to a group of people that will be considered Shem or Asiatic or Ham or Hamitic. All right. So this is what we want to point out in that regard. The known aspect of Afro-Asiatic language places. When you look at this particular map here and you see the aspect of the yellow, that right there is what they're saying is the Afro-Asiatic languages spoken. And as you can see, Hebrew is related to the family of languages that's spoken primarily inside of the continent of Africa. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. All right. So of course we know that the Afro-Asiatic languages extend beyond Hebrew, but Hebrew is part of it. Hebrew is not an Indo-European language. Hebrew is not a European language, okay? In the book 201 Hebrew Verbs, which I suggested people get, it speaks about Hebrew is different than other Indo-European languages. And the reason why it's different is because it's not an Indo-European language. All right. So this is something we want to talk about. It's not a Caucasian language. All right. Hebrew is listed as an Afro-Asiatic language. All right. So let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. The aspect of Hebrew. Hebrew over the centuries has had little change. And that statement comes from a book entitled A History of the Hebrew Language by Angel Badillos. All right. You can get that book online, by the way. All right. I wanted to cite the sources. Okay. Then on the right hand side, it says Hebrew, a West Semitic language of the Afro-Asiatic language tree. All right. Western Semitic, meaning other words, Western Asiatic, if you will, because the land where the Hebrews lived that spoke Hebrew, that wrote Hebrew, predominantly lived in what you call the vicinity of the Levant. And the Levant vicinity location is Western Asia. All right. The term Afro-Asiatic was made in 1914 by Maurice Delafosse or Delafose. Sorry if I mispronounced it. The point I'm getting to in this regard, brothers and sisters and elders included, is when you look at this right here, it distinctly says the term Afro-Asiatic was made in 1914. Now, that becomes important as we go along in this particular presentation. All right. The term Hemito-Semitic was coined in 1876 by Friedrich Muller. All right. So when we're dealing in this particular regard, we're dating the time frame according to when they identified Hebrew to be part of what they refer to as the Hemito-Semitic languages or the Afro-Asiatic languages. Now, brothers and sisters, the people Maurice Delafosse or Friedrich Muller did not create Hebrew. They did not create Amharic. They did not create Aramaic. All right. They basically are the people who had a particular name, what they called the branch of a particular language. All right. So this is just what we want to point out for evidence purposes. The languages that we're speaking of predate such a thing. Now, we want to continue on. Thank you. What truly is modern Hebrew? The Hebrew we speak today is deemed biblical Hebrew. Now, when I say what we're speaking, this is a presentation as stated being brought to you from the congregation Shema Yisrael. All right. So when we say we speak, we're talking about us as the house of Yisrael. All right. It says the Hebrew we speak today is deemed biblical Hebrew. So this is why when you go back, and I emphasize people, please watch all the lessons from 1 through 11, but certainly lesson number 6. All right, because in that particular one, I went over the fact of the yad, yad ka, yad, yado, as opposed to yad, shelo, yad, shelka. Okay, so now Jewish people, Ashkenazi, Sephardic alike, when they hear us, such as coming out of Shema Israel, out of Hashaba, out of what was Quahal, and so forth and so on, many times we have been told, oh, y'all speak Old Hebrew. We have been told that. We have actually been told that we speak Old Hebrew because we don't speak the modern Hebrew. And by modern Hebrew, Brooklyn is said as Brooklyn. Radio is said as radio. Television as Sikhayon. Some people actually have it as television. You understand? But we know good and well, brothers and sisters, that there was no place called Brooklyn in the days of the scriptures being written. There was no such thing as a radio. There was no such thing as a television. So when they say a word such as Sikhayon in regards for television, the word in Hebrew for conversation is sikha. So sikhayon just simply emphasizes the meaning of the word it's attached to, the yon aspect or the own aspect, should I say, brothers and sisters, serves as a suffix, like Shimon, as we discussed before, as Kebron, as we discussed before. So the things to emphasize on in this particular regard is when we speak Hebrew, we're not speaking radio as radio, Brooklyn as Brooklyn, banana as banana. We're not speaking that. All right. There is no Hebrew word for radio. So what we would say in regards to a radio is something such as the word teba zimbra, which means teba meaning box, zimbra meaning music, a music box, because there's no set aside word for radio. Just as we went over before, there's no set aside word for million. The highest number that you're seeing in the scriptures is rababa, which means 10,000, as we discussed last week in the Hebrew class. So this is something we just want to point out in that regard. Next slide. Thank you. Definition of transliteration is this: to represent or spell in characters of another alphabet. Now, we went over and discussed, brothers and sisters, the distinction between a translation and a transliteration. Translation, let me give you an example. My name is Yeshaya, right? The Translation of Yeshaya is Yah is salvation. All right. The transliteration, however, of Yeshaya is Isaiah. Yeshaya does not mean Isaiah. Isaiah is not a Hebrew word. You understand? And we want to talk about certain things because it can get, no disrespect intended, kind of sloppy once people don't understand the distinction between translation and transliteration. For instance, in the book that I wrote entitled Old Testament Hebrews Respond, Why Are There Non-Messianics? A book basically explaining the aspect of why we are Old Testament based. I explained that the word said as Messiah is an English transliteration, not a translation, but a transliteration of the Hebrew word Mashiach. The Hebrew word Mashiach does not mean Messiah. So Messiah in English is spelled as Messiah. Some Israelites have actually then said is really Messiah, as in to say Masiyaah, but that is no translation or transliteration. That's just a lack of linguistic knowledge to try to say Messiah as Messiah. No, the thought you're trying to convey cannot be vocalized correctly in any language or translated or transliterated. All right, because you're taking the word Messiah, which is a transliteration, and then you're trying to make a transliteration out of a transliteration, which means it has no meaning whatsoever. So this is something we really want to emphasize in that particular regard. All right. So now, when you look at the Hebrew word Mashiach, it literally means anointed or one that is anointed. All right. It comes from the root verb mashak, which means to anoint. All right. Now, when you look at that particular word mashak, that meaning to anoint, brothers and sisters, you get the root from that Mashiach, one who is anointed. For instance, you have the word patak, which means to open. Mafteak means key. All right. So this is just something we want to point out for edification purposes. We already explained when you get the ak sound, when you have the ket as the last letter, and you have a patak underneath it. That's why it's important to listen to lesson number 6 when we went over the vowels in particular in detail. Now, getting back to the subject matter, brothers and sisters, with transliteration and translation. All right. Jeremiah is the English transliteration of the Hebrew word Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah in Hebrew means the Most High will exalt, or let the Most High be exalted. So that's what that means in that particular regard. All right. But there's the translation and then the transliteration to represent or spell in characters of another alphabet. All right. So we're going to go on to the next slide. All right. The prefix of the letter mem. As we discussed in lesson 6, we can see that this letter serves as a prefix. Examples, of such are ma'ase. Now, for those who've been following meticulously, I didn't have to per se put in ma, then then say it like that, because if you followed and understood lesson 1 through lesson 11, you should have been able to see, oh, that's the word ma say. See, that's why I keep emphasizing study the lessons before this, even though they'll all be online. The mem there in the red serves as the prefix to the verb asa. Asa in Hebrew means to do or to make. Ma'aseh means action. So as we discussed before, when you have the prefix of the letter mem, brothers and sisters, it changes the verb to a noun. So asa is the verb to do. Ma'aseh means action. That is the actual noun. That is the thing. A noun is what a person places a thing. So this is something we want to get into for edification purposes. All right. How this particular thing works in Hebrew. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Mem added to Gadal. All right, what you're looking at there is the word Migdol. The word Migdol means tower. The prefix of the Mem letter is shown there. The word Gadal means to be big. So as you can begin to see, you will have the Gamel, the Dalit, and the Lamed. Gadal means to be big, or to be large, or to be great. It doesn't mean to be good. Anything that's good is not necessarily great. Everything that's great is not necessarily good. So I want to emphasize the Hebrew word hatib means to be better, from hatab or hatib, which means to be good. But this particular root word, gadal, means to be great or to be big. So therefore, great and good are two different distinctions in Hebrew, also in English. So this is something we want to point out in that particular regard. All right. So by adding, brothers and sisters, the prefix there, as you see the letter mem to the word gadal, tower is the meaning. That is the actual noun. But the verb is gadal. This is how you see Hebrew work. And by the way, that word is in Jeremiah chapter 44. All right, we're going to go on to the next slide. It says mem with the word tabak. All right. Kitchen in Hebrew is said as mitbak. Mitbak. That's how you basically say kitchen in Hebrew. All right. And yes, I did get this from offline, but I just wanted to show the clearest version of this that I'm able to sit there and show. All right. So we're going to go on to the next slide and explain this particular aspect. In the previous slide, we saw the word mitbak. As shown, it means kitchen. The root of the word, when dropping a prefix mem, is the word tabak. The word tabak means to slaughter. All right. So, brothers and sisters, the verb tabak means to slaughter. When you put the prefix of the letter mem with it, it becomes the word mitabak. The word mitabak, as stated, means the word kitchen. Why? Because a kitchen, brothers and sisters, is a place in which you do slaughtering at. All right. All right. We're going to take a brief minute. Chief, come for a second. We're going to have Chief Absalom say something to the family, please. This is live.
Shalom, family. I hope everybody's well, getting this lesson from this brother who definitely know what the heck he's talking about. My dude, I appreciate you, man, because you make me want to study more. And that's plain and simple. Shalom.
Okay, giving honor and respect to Yah, creator, maker of heaven and earth. I knew that particular brother, Absalom. Brother, you got one more second? All right. Can you please explain to the family what your name is and what does it mean? I'm doing this for a reason. I'm glad he came upstairs.
I'm Chief Absalom. My name Absalom. It means father of peace.
Now, what does the definition of the word peace is?
To bring love, guidance, respect, upliftment, just straight considerate. So many definitions. But peace, love. You got love, you got to give it out. That's who I am, though.
All right. Well, there's a song that was written in the 1970s called Where There's Peace, There's Love. Now, getting back, and I thank the brother for the time, but I want to emphasize because I'm looking in the comments and I see a lot of shalom, 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 shalom. The word shalom, brothers and sisters, comes from the root word shalom, which means to be complete. So when you are complete, then you are at peace. That's how Hebrew works. All right. But now let's get back to this. Thanking the brother for the time there. We're gonna get back focused on this. It says in the previous slide, we saw the word mitbak as shown, it means kitchen. The root of the word when dropping a prefix mem is the word tabak. The word means to slaughter. Now, this is coming here from the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, in English and Hebrew. For the Lord have indignation against all nations, and fury against all their hosts. He have utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Ki quetzef la yod wahe al kal hagoyim. Wa chema al kal zebaam. Ha rimam ne tanam le tebak. All right, so as you see, they are highlighted in the blue. It says to the. All right. It says to the. All right. Then you see in the red slaughter. Then in the red in the Hebrew tabach, which means just that en route to slaughter. Now, if that lamed had been a mem, it would have been mitbach, which means kitchen, because in the kitchen is where you do the slaughtering at, like when you slaughter animals or so forth and so on. So that is Hebrew science, and that's how Hebrew works. So when we say things such as Hebrew being easy, this is why we're saying what we're saying. Next slide. Thank you. The matter of Yiddish discussed. Yiddish, though it uses the Hebrew lettering, we should not think it is Hebrew words. All right? Example, Abba, A-B-B-A. Abba meaning father. All right? Written in English letters, yet it is not an English word. So Abba is a Hebrew word, but as you can see right there, it's written in English letters. That doesn't make it an English word. So is it the same thing with Yiddish? So even if a Yiddish word is written in Hebrew letters, that does not make it a Hebrew word. So I want this to be shown. That is an aspect of transliteration, all right? Yiddish dates back to the 9th century AD. On this channel, there are 2 videos that will be put in the description of this video explaining the matter of Yiddish not being Hebrew, either ancient or modern. All right. So that's just something we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. Thank you. Hebrew from Arad, Hebrew from Lachish. Now, what you're looking at there on the left hand side, it says Arad Astrakhan, dated to 9 BC, which is during the era of Jehoiakim, who was one of the successors later on of Josiah, because you had Josiah, Jehoiakim, then you had Jehoiakim. All right. So just wanted to point that out in that particular regard. All right. This right here is a form of Hebrew that they found in southern Israel. All right, dated to the 7th century BCE. Now, what you're looking at on the other side, on the right-hand side, is the Hebrew from Lachish. This dates actually to the 6th century BCE. But if you're looking at it meticulously, you'll begin to see the pattern is different in the style of writing. This is something we want to point out, that Hebrew, after a while, changed in form of writing, as we discussed in lesson number 1. But that doesn't mean that the Hebrew language itself is different. It's just the style that one employs as alphabet of it is different. All right. So this is something we want to point out in that regard. Next, we have this here, Hebrew over the course of years. Next slide. Thank you. Hebrew over time took on different writing styles. To the right are different styles of Hebrew writing over the course of years. This was actually shown in lesson number 1, updated Hebrew class on this channel. So what you're looking at there, brothers and sisters, you have the different styles of Hebrew writing over the course of centuries. And all of that dates to the era of the BCE or before the Common Era, different aspects. The Hebrew that you see style of writing in the time of Solomon with the Gezer calendar is different than the Siloam inscription under the time of King Hezekiah. So let's go over that. For instance, you have Solomon, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Jehoash, Amaziah, Uzziah, Yotam, Ahaz, Hezekiah. I don't think I missed any of the kings, but correct me if I did. All right, so in that particular regard, we're speaking 9 or 10 generations between the era of Solomon to the era of King Hezekiah, which is approximate time over 300 years. So now, if you're looking at that, for instance, with the Gezer calendar, as we've shown before, dated to the time of King Solomon, then if you're looking at the Siloam inscription, dated to the time of King Hezekiah, which was during the time of the prophet Isaiah, you'll begin to see what that is in that particular regard. All right. Different writing styles, but yet the same people speaking the same language, though they had a different style of writing a particular alphabet. So this is what we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. Thank you. Kazon Yeshayahu ben Amos, Asher Kaza, Al Yehuda, Wirushalam, Bime Uziyahu, Yotam Akaz Yakez Kriyahu. Malke Yehuda. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Yotam, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. Now, let's look at the Hebrew on the left-hand side. The first word there is kazon, which means vision. All right. We already emphasized that the own, brothers and sisters, serves as a suffix, meaning to intensify the meaning of the word that it is with. All right. Kaza is the root of that, meaning to have a vision or to be able to see prophecy. All right. So kazon means vision. All right. Okay. Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu. The yod, the sheen, the iron, the yod, the hay, and the wow. All right. Yesha means salvation. Yahu. Yah is he. Yeshayahu, the Most High, he is salvation. Ben Amot, the son of Amot. Asher, which, Chaza, which he saw, or which he envisioned, or which he was able to have prophecy of. Al Yehuda, concerning Judah, Yerushalem, and concerning Jerusalem. Bime, in the days of Uzziyahu, meaning the Most High, he is my strength. Uzziah said at the English transliteration. Yotam, meaning the Most High is perfect, said in transliteration as Jotham. Ahaz, said in transliteration as Ahaz, meaning he has seized in translation. Yakis Kweyahu, the Most High, he will strengthen, said in transliteration as Hezekiah. Brothers and sisters, Yakis Kweyahu does not mean Hezekiah. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right, I want to read what somebody wrote. It said the brother, yes, Ben means son, so I'll tell you that's the brother. The style of script that a person uses depends on the person. So it makes sense that the scripts are different, whether it is on steel or ostracons, just like a person handwriting will differ. Exactly. So when you're dealing, for instance, with different types of stuff like penmanship and so forth and so on, you have a different writing style than the next person. But that's why in all you're getting, get understanding. I thank the Most High for that brother making that comment in that particular regard there. All right, so Malke Yehuda means kings of Judah because the word Melech means king. Malakim, Malakim means angels or messengers, but Malakim means kings. All right, let's go over. Melech is king. Malak means to reign. Malakim means kings. Malke means kings of. Malke Yehuda, kings of Judah. So Isaiah was given a timeline in which he was given his prophecies, all right? The person wrote, I used the Misha Steel style, but my style looks different from the scribe who wrote that steel. Okay, makes sense. And then the person said, brother, I think I remember you, Dariah Ben Dora. I think I remember you, not to get too personal, from the West Coast. If I remember, I don't want to get too personal about what state. I think we spoke before about the book that I bought and so forth. But yeah, if that's you or not you, shalom to you, my brother, nonetheless. All right. But getting back into this particular thing right here, when you're dealing with the aspect of the Hebrew, I just wanted to give a short presentation as lesson number 13 because, as stated last time, study the lessons 1 through 10 and 1 through 11 before. When we get into lesson number 14 and so forth and so on, you'll begin to see how the transition is going to go faster and faster and then got it more into the biblical aspect. So with that, we say Todah for the time. Shalom. Mosai bless. Oh, there was one more slide. All right. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 2. It says in the Hebrew, Shim'u Shemayim, Waha'azini Eretz, Ki Yod Wahe Diber, Banim Gidalti, Wa Romamti, Wahem Pash Ubi. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Most High has spoken. children I have reared and brought up, and they have rebelled against me. All right. So in the Hebrew, it says there Shim'u, which means it's the command form. All right. Shama being the root of that, meaning to hear or to give ear. So Shim'u is when you're telling more than one person, it's the command form and pluralization, masculine plural. Shim'u Shemayim, which means what, brothers and sisters? That Shemayim by itself means heavens. So there's layers to it. I'm not going in some other mystic exoteric book, but I'm just pointing that out as an example. Waha azini eretz. All right. Waha'azini. Ha'azin means to give ear or to pay attention. Now that is the command form too, but ha'azin would be the masculine. Ha'azini is the feminine. Eretz means earth. As we went over before, brothers and sisters, yesterday on Shabbat, in the presentation coming out of Shema Yisrael, Eretz, earth, is represented in the feminine. The Hebrews, the Israelites, knew that earth is feminine. We didn't think earth was masculine because you put seed in the earth. You don't put seed in masculine entities. You understand? We don't do that in the house of Yisrael. Now it says, Ki Yod He Wah He Dibel, for the Most High, He has spoken. Banim, children. Gidalti, I have reared. I have caused to be brought up. I have caused to be great. Waro Mamti, and I have reared them up, and I've caused them to be able to excel. Wahem Pash Ubi, Wahem, and they, Pash U, mean they have transgressed or rebelled in that translation, but more so pasha, the root means to trespass or to transgress, and more so of a clearer definition. And they have trespassed against me, or they have rebelled against me. The word rebel in Hebrew is more so the root word marad, whereas the word pasha means more so to trespass or transgress. Be meaning against me. So this is something we just want to point out for edification purposes. All right. So with that, we say Torah for the time. Thank you for the brothers and sisters and elders included who decided to listen in. Hopefully, there is no more wondering about, oh, out of Shema Yisrael, they're teaching Yiddish. We're not teaching Yiddish. We went over what Yiddish is. And so this is something we want to get into for edification purposes. Hopefully, it has been cleared again. And if you listen to lesson number 6 carefully, you can see how this too was a review. So with that, I say Torah for the time. In the East Coast, it is now 5:20, 20 after 5. There will be, oh, okay, from Colorado. Okay. So, all right, Kane, Torah, brother. So what we're going to do is close out in this particular regard, and there will be another presentation at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. Torah Rabbah for the time. Most I bless. Shalom.